won't be using none of that Harry Potter spell fancy wording showing off the anatomy lingo, none of that. This is just to show you the structure before the form. When you're looking at something like this, when you look at all the curvature going on, it can be pretty intimidating, because when you're looking at it with an amateur's eye, you don't know where one thing ends and another begins. And so structure before form helps a lot. So alright, so the first thing I need you guys to notice, the leg bone here, which is also called the femur, comes out from the pelvis and then pokes on the outside here. Okay, the tip of the bone pokes out like that, and that's responsible for the hips. It widens at the base here. For men, not as much, although I will share a tutorial on the musculature and everything else in detail. But basically, when you're drawing the pelvis, you need to make the base just a little bit wider. That helps a ton. Trust me, it really helps a ton. You won't need to draw the bone structure first. Alright, so the first thing I need you guys to remember is that the legs are made up of straights and bends. When you draw the pelvis like that, you then cut it in half, and then you draw a pair of underwear, and then you join the legs in the holes of the underwear in here. So how we're going to do that is you're going to draw the inside of the legs as straight. Not really a straight line, but a line that curves on the inside. It comes out like that and then curves in a bit, but not so extreme. You just want to put a little bend in there, okay? And then when you're drawing the outside, you remember that poking out in the hip? So we won't poke it out as much, but we will just bring it out like that. And then the thigh will come here. Okay. So it pokes out at the hip, and then it comes down like that. Now the general shape of the thigh, remember structure before form. The general shape is a drumstick. You basically want to make it bigger in the part where it joins to the pelvis, and you want it to taper as it goes down to the knee. So bigger and wider at the hip area as it joins into the pelvis here, the square, you can see the square. Then it tapers down as it goes to the knee. That's the general shape of the thigh. And then when you want to draw the lower half of the leg, well, it's not really a half, because the longest bone in the body is the femur. Okay, this part is longer, so you want to be generous with the length of this bone right here. You want to be generous. You want to give it good enough length, but whatever you do, don't make it as long as the lower part of the leg. Okay, the top part of the leg here will be longer, and then here it'll be shorter. How you draw the lower part of the leg is you apply the same rule of the drumstick. It's just basically attaching two drumsticks together. That's the basic thing. So you want it bigger at the top here and smaller as it goes down to the ankles, like that. This is for the front view, by the way. I'm going to show you guys three views: the front, the side, and the back. Okay, I'm going to show you guys how to draw it. Not in great detail, but just enough to get you guys going. Okay, so this is the basic shape. Now, of course, there are more curves in the leg, but this is just the general shape. This is the general shape. Now, for the side view, alright, so I already talked about the front here. I will go in depth in another video where I isolate like the thigh alone, and I talk about the musculature and then the lower leg, but I will share enough in this one to give you guys a good start. Alright, so we're going to start with the side view. The human body has this synergy about it. Okay, there's this synergy where it counterbalances in this nice rhythmic way, and so that's consistent throughout the body. That's how the different body parts relate with one another. There's this synergy. So the synergy, if you have a good eye, you've already noticed. In the last video we said the pelvis counterbalances the ribs, the rib cage. So the rib cage will be going like that, and then for the pelvis it goes like that. And then if you notice, there's this consistent line that goes from the pelvis. You can see the energy being driven back into the knee like that, and then it comes back out and it goes into the foot like that. Okay, so you want to remember that there's a synergy. But to be more specific, when it comes to the musculature of the legs, you will notice that there's a roundness to the butt here, and then the roundness shows up in the front of the thigh, and then the roundness shows up in the calf like that. There's this wave like thing going on, and that's just the basic shape of it. Okay, ignore these little details I was drawing here. If I could draw this again, I would draw it like this. Okay, so the pelvis was here and it's round like that. I'll simply add the straight for the back leg, and I'll add the curve for the front of the leg. The knee comes out like that, sort of like a triangle, a small triangle. And then for the front of the leg, for the shin, there's a straight again. And then the calf comes out like that. The wave goes into the calf and then into the foot. This is the basic shape of the leg. Alright? So remember that straights on bends, okay, there's this curvature about it. And this helps a ton once you just remember this tiny little detail. It helps a ton. Now for the front view, it's the same thing that applies here. Now we said that it comes out in the hip area like that. It's the same thing with the bends on straights, except there are sharper curves. The curves are more pointy, especially on a very muscular person. They will be very pointy. This, you would say this is an average person, you know, they don't really work out as much, but they stay active. So you notice that there's this zigzag kind of thing going on. It goes like that, and then like that. But this is the gist of the curves of the legs. Okay, the wave starts at the hip and then it drives straight into the knee here, the inside of the knee. So it goes outside and in, outside and in, outside and in, outside and in, just like that. So it goes out of the hip area, it goes in, then it comes out on the inside of the knee, then it goes in again, then it comes out on the outside of the calf, then it goes in on the inside of the calf, but it doesn't end there. The ankles aren't actually straight. Now I won't be showing how to draw the foot in this one, but I will make a tutorial on feet in my next video. So the curve comes out, it goes in on the inside of the calf, and then the wave goes out on the outside of the ankle. So concerning the ankles, the inside of the ankle sits higher. It sits higher than the inside of the ankle. Okay, and I still struggle with this, and I don't know why necessarily, but I always seem to forget that the ankles aren't in a straight line. Not that I draw them straight, but I forget which one sits higher than the other. Is it the outside that sits higher than the other? So here's the hack. Maybe I'll share it in the how to draw feet tutorial. I'll share it in the how to draw feet tutorial. So for now, just know that, you know, yeah. So we said the wave starts on the outside of the hip, right? The outside of the hip, it goes out like that, and then it goes into the inside of the knee, then it goes out. The outside of the calf sits at a higher point than the inside of the calf, and then the energy, the wave, this counterbalancing wave, now goes from the inside of the calf, which sits lower than the outside of the calf, goes out again, comes out again on the outside of the ankle, which sits lower than the inside part of the ankle. If this is confusing, you don't have to learn all of this just as I've shared it, like, because I'm sharing all of this in one video, therefore you should learn all of this at once. Now you can take your time. Maybe you could just stick to mastering the side view, for example. Okay, you could stick to mastering the side view first, and then once you get the hang of that, you watch this video again, maybe slower, or you could just repeat it again and again and again. And then when you master the side view, you can then move to the front view, just like that, if this is too much, just take it slow. Okay, don't stress yourself out too much. It's really not that hard. Just master how the synergy works. Try not, if you can memorize this in one sitting, then that's great. But I know for me, I took a lot of time just staring at the anatomy of like my favorite artists and the anatomy of like bodybuilders. I'll just look at the bodies and I'm like, yeah, this looks like that, looks like this, and then I would apply what I'm learning and reflect it onto what I'm looking at until I got the gist of it. And it doesn't really take that much time, honestly. I just need to focus on the structure of the legs. So first we draw the pelvis, then we turn it into a pair of underwear, and then we draw this straight. The inside of the leg is straight. Now remember the drumstick, so it'll be bigger here and then smaller as it goes into the knee. And then we attach another drumstick. It gets big at the top and becomes smaller as we go down to the ankles like that. And that's all you need to know. So you can stick with this till you're comfortable enough. Now of course there are more curves here. Like for example, you will notice that there's this, the inside of the thigh is usually much more fleshy here. And there's a curve like that, and then the knees like that again, and then of course there are more curves to it, but this is just the basic tutorial. These are just the basics. Okay, so you don't need to worry about this for now. I will make a separate tutorial on the musculature and the curvature of the legs and whatnot, but don't worry about that for now.
I love you.